Hi, how is everyone today? I am so excited that you all are here with us. I am here with Jason Hodge, and he is absolutely amazing. You all, he's out of, is it Washington? What part of Washington are you in? Tacoma.
I am, yeah, I'm in Tacoma, just south of Tacoma and Lakewood, but Tacoma is right next to me.
Ooh, beautiful. I love it. Audience, I just want you just to sit back, relax, and really embrace what we're going to be sharing today. He has so much incredible content, all right? And I really believe what you put out is what you attract, and what you're seeking is seeking you, okay? And we want you to also know that you are not alone on your journey. That is why we are here. Jason, thank you so much for being here with us. So tell us, how did you get involved in all that you do? Like, was this something that you grew up in, where your parents just really laser focused, or how did that all just happen?
Well, actually, I did kind of grow up in it. My parents were execs inside of the music industry. My mother was vice president of uh, publishing at a very famous company, well-known company, Motown. And so I grew up just kind of watching what she does on a regular
Okay.
basis. And so I ended up in media after a car accident. I was in a very bad car accident in 1995,
Oh, wow.
and I was the director assistant operator just prior to the accident. And I wasn't able to go back to my job. And so my friend said, "Hey, there's a program going on over at Time Warner. I think we should go. It's an intern program. You learn how to produce and all that." I was like, "Okay,
So,
yeah."
so I have a question for you. So during that time, because it sounded like you had a direction that you were going in, you're going through life, going through a direction, and all of a sudden you go through this car accident and you have to take a pivot. Was it overwhelming, or were you just like, well, I guess God just has something different for me? Or like, what was your mindset during that time?
Yeah, actually, I didn't necessarily have a direction per se.
Hmm.
Yeah, although I grew up in entertainment, that was not necessarily a part of my life. That
Okay.
was
Okay.
just, exec kids, you kind of do your own thing.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I've always been intrigued with health and well-being.
Okay.
So I started learning healing modalities like massage therapy, herbs,
Mm.
iridology, reflexology, the whole shebang. And I was actually being trained at that time by a naturopath who was out of Belize, who used to use very interesting herbs, and she used to work on people with all different types of cases, from terminally ill patients, HIV, cancer, AIDS, you
Oh,
name it.
wow.
And I would see just phenomenal work that she did. And so that drew me into that. And so the car accident just was a catalyst to get me into the media because I wasn't able to go back to my job. And I was
Right.
like, "Oh, let me do something with my time."
I
So
love it.
that's how that worked out.
That is amazing. And
Yeah.
so once you ended up with Time Warner, could you feel like, okay, this is definitely where I'm supposed to be right now?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, with Time Warner, I found that every aspect of production I absolutely loved. And
Wow.
even when I thought that, oh my gosh, you're about to put me on this, like I started out in graphics, then I went from graphics over to VTR, which is videotape record. We would put the tapes in the machine, time, count back everybody when, we were like action and all of that. And I thought that that was probably the most boring job before I got it. And I was
Okay,
like,
yes.
I can't believe that they're moving me over to this. And every time that I
Right.
would get proficient at one job, they say, okay, we need you over here. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Right,
So
right.
before I knew it, my mentor at the time, I didn't know that he was mentoring, he was kind of getting me ready. I didn't realize that he was moving me to the different stations so that I could learn how to be proficient on each one of those pieces of equipment.
Oh,
And before
very
I knew it,
interesting.
he was
So
having me run the
he
studio.
kind of knew the formula of what he was doing, and you were like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to go with this, you
I
know?
was kicking and screaming throughout the whole process.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. Now, what
Yeah.
did you learn through that? Because I know that also too, You talk about relaying your story. Is it because you've been so involved in the entertainment business that you knew that that was such a powerful concept for people to learn and know?
Not at all. No,
Oh,
yeah, I learned through osmosis just watching my mom put together campaigns and ideas and things like that. But I didn't know that that was logging into anywhere in my brain.
okay.
Yeah, at the studio, it was like a completely new venture. This wasn't music. This was production, like, media, television programming. We used to do the PACO channels,
Oh,
public,
wow.
educational, governmental, least access, and then we would do live feeds. And so while I was there, everything was new. I didn't even know that I could connect dots between music and the studio
Oh, wow. Right.
until certain things would pop up, and there were certain things that I just inherently knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was learning though all that time. So yeah, so that was completely different. And I didn't learn how to present in front of the camera until way after I was at the studio because I was always behind the scenes. I'm an
Really?
extreme introvert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even something that you felt was something that you wanted to go out and do. So do
No.
you remember when that shift happened, when it was like, wow, I really have to get out of my comfort zone. Like I really feel like this is like a calling.
Yeah. For me, it was when I did my first broadcast and I had to host it. And I realized that the first one that I did was on health, well-being, and wholeness. I brought together a series of naturopaths and folks who dealt with alternative medicine.
Mm,
And in that, there were certain questions that I believed that the public would want to know.
yeah. Yeah.
So those questions came up, and then I started doing more interviews like that, started creating documentaries,
Wow.
and I crewed a lot of productions. I crewed a few thousand productions
Oh,
before I
wow.
started really just doing my own thing and saying, you know
Right.
what, I need to start to build my own platform
Right.
because if I'm always in the position of asking permission to put a production together, I'll probably not get anywhere.
Okay.
So I started doing my own thing. That's really how it started. And then live
Wow.
stream came into play, YouTube came into play, and I thought, I wonder if I could do the things that I learned at the studio here on YouTube. And I did,
Yeah.
and it worked out. And then I started learning, like, you know what, you could actually build a network on any one of these platforms. All
I
it
love
takes is
that.
a plan, and then, a funnel, a storyline, what it is that you ultimately want to accomplish, and,
Right.
and objective.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is really intense. So, why don't you share something with our audience? Like if someone's in that same space where they really believe that they have something inside them that can help, around the world, but they're
Mhm.
feeling like, let's be honest, sometimes we feel like, who am I? We feel small. But it sounds like you really broke out of that, especially in the environment that you were in. I mean, I can see how someone could maybe not you, but someone who would feel like intimidated, by
Mhm.
even being like, wow, this is like my dream, this is what I really feel like I can accomplish. And especially since you've been doing it for a while, like
Mhm.
back in the day, we didn't even have any of this, you know what I mean? And now it's like, oh,
Yeah. Well, here's what helped me out. And I have a saying every time that I run across a person who gets nervous in front of the camera and all of that, I say, service cures the nervous.
ooh, oh, that's
Okay.
good. That's good.
When you're in service, you really don't have any time to think about yourself. And
Yeah.
we often will get stymied or we, will mute our voice because we are so concerned with the rejection that we
Mm.
may feel from somebody's judgment. We feel like,
Okay.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, I'm going to get judged and I'm going to get rejected. I'm going to be a laughing stock. I'm going to be ousted from the community, the
Wow.
proverbial virtual community.
Yeah.
And when you can get past that and realize the value that you have to offer, your marketplace is so intense. And if
Mm.
you don't, it's the equivalent of, say that I always like to give this visual. Say that you're a fire person, right? You're a
Yeah.
firefighter, and there's folks inside of a burning building.
Okay.
Your job is to get them out.
Yeah.
Your content or your media is the vehicle that you use to get them out.
Oh, that's good.
If you don't go into that burning inferno, people are going to die. And
Yes.
those people represent the dreams that your story touches. So
Mm.
if they don't hear your story, they burn, they perish. Your story is the light at the end of the tunnel that draws them out to safety and into their purpose. So when you focus on it like that, what I found is that you have so little time to focus on, if your fire gear is matching or not. And I have a saying, it's a gross saying, but it just provide a visual. I said, whether you have spinach in your teeth or a booger in your nose,
Yeah.
you're not going to care when you're trying to save somebody's life.
Right. No, that's so good.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about like a conviction right now. It's
Yeah.
so true. I love that. I mean, it's really about focusing on being other centered, but that visual could not be more powerful for
Mhm.
sure, especially when you talk about like saving people. I mean, if that's really where the purity of your heart is, you just can't, you just can't look at anything from the outside, you know?
Exactly.
Wow. And so, have you always had that type of connection and intuition with inside yourself to be able to really adhere to, because what I love most about you is you're a representation of what you speak. Like you preach with who you actually are. So that's why it feels so effortless to be on here with you, you know? Have
Yeah.
you always like, or did you end up going through a transition where you were like, it's not about me anymore?
Um, I always was, but I didn't know how to dial it in.
Okay.
And for me, there's quite a few life events that took place. For one, I was in 4 car accidents. The last one left me with brain damage.
Oof.
And the I the way that the accident happened, I was hit at such a speed that it broke the driver's seat that I was sitting in. I ended up in the back seat. The attorney was like, he says, look, I've been doing these kind of cases for 20 years. He says, you got out good to
Wow.
just have brain damage. He says, because usually what happens is that you either ramp into the back seat so hard that it snaps your neck and you're dead,
Ooh.
or you get ejected out of the back window. The fact that neither one of those happened, you just happened to hit yourself so hard that you got brain damage. He says, count your blessings. And I was like, okay. So
Wow.
that was a great wake up call. And the funny thing is that the day before I got into the accident was the first day that I was starting my program that I run in the schools. And it's a media mentorship and culinary program where we work with at-risk youth. And we teach them to cook and how to do media. But really the underlying premise of it is that we help them critically think and take an idea from concept, we like to say from concept to cash flow. How do you
Ooh.
take what you're thinking
Yeah.
and then put together the right components, the right recipe in order to create something that's going to generate profit, that's going to generate an impact, that's going to
Mm.
transform lives.
Wow.
So we
Wow.
use story to do that, and we have them tap into their stories. And the
Wow.
funny thing is that when we start out, they don't want to see the camera. They're like, no, no camera. Within 2 weeks, they're like, so what do you got there, Mr. Jason? I was like, oh, it's a little camera. And they're like, oh, well, let me see that. And before you know it, by the time that we hit week number 3, they're interviewing each other. By the time we hit week number 5, they're like, okay, yeah, they are now actively moving through cooking, interviewing. By the time we have the culmination of the program, they're presenting in front of a community of total strangers who
Oh,
come out to
wow.
meet them. And they are like, okay, I got this, Mr. Jason. And then so they're now presenting what they learned in the program. And so it's so gratifying to see them come out of their shell and then to realize that they have the ability to really move forward on something that's just a concept. So that's what kind of stirs me. And
Yeah.
I realize that if we can catch them at this young age,
Right.
they don't have to wait until they're adults like us to
Mhm,
now
mhm,
have to
mhm.
refigure life out.
Right.
And so I found that that works the same thing as tapping into the inner child of us as adults to say, okay, you know what? Let's go back before we were too afraid to get rejected.
Right.
Because
Right.
we get judged every day in our family, but we still are loved by our family. We don't feel rejection. So it's like, okay, whatever. We
I
keep
love
on.
that. So, what were some techniques that you were telling your students to do that were tangible that made them make the shift and actually make it pretty quickly?
Mhm. The funny thing is that I just let them do their thing.
Oh, wow. In a safe
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. See, in when we were coming up, our first iteration in the school was Montessori. And in
Yes.
Montessori, You learn the curriculum is wrapped around the child's interest.
Okay, right.
And so once you get bitten by the Montessori bug, you really can't go back. So that has been more of a life philosophy for me, is that you can learn anything if you can tap into your interest. There's math involved with that, there's literature involved with that, there's
Mm,
presentation involved with that, there's public speaking, there's all of these things wrapped around. And if it's something that you love and you
yeah.
want to share with others because you're excited about it, then all you do is just kind of seed it with all the rest of the great stuff that is a part of curriculum.
Yes.
So in the classroom, when we're in the midst of our program, what they are learning is that, well, for one, whatever concept that they have is great. So let's articulate it.
Mm,
You
mhm.
explain the concept. Tell us what it's about. And so we sit around in a powwow and we talk about it. And then it's like, okay, and then we happen to catch it on camera. And
Right.
then we start talking about, okay, so now notice this. When you were talking, this is how you did your hands and your eyes and all of that. So what were you thinking while you were explaining the story? So as they're unpacking their own stuff, they realize that the natural tendency, they have a natural ability to be in their genius. And
Mm,
every
mhm.
child is a genius until they are taught not to be.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
That is powerful. Yes. No, that's so good. Now, were these concepts that you learned, or was it a certain book, or was it just in, like, you just could feel the missing link and you were like, I need to bring this to the forefront?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Back in 98, I sat down and I penned out a program, which is the program that now I run in the schools. And it was a program, a 5 phase program where the students would go through and they would learn a trade. It didn't matter what it was because the concept could be applied to anything.
Yeah.
What I loved about the program, though, is that it builds leadership because by the time that we
Mm.
hit phase 5, that 5th phase, they are teaching the next group of children coming
Oh,
through.
yes.
Okay. And so the design of it is for it to be perpetual. Now, here's the thing with it is that it sat on the shelf for about 18 years. Yeah, it
Whoa.
was because it was 2016 when we actually launched it in the schools. So
Okay.
18 years it sat on the shelf because it was 98 when I penned it. And that initial foray into piloting the program, on one hand, it was very encouraging. On the other hand, it could have been very discouraging if I didn't
Okay.
keep perspective. Because
Okay.
the big dream and the vision is, oh, it's got this, 5 phases and all that. The reality is that when you implement this into a public school system, there's a lot of red tape and a
Oh
lot of
gosh.
hurdles that you've got to jump through. And then you've got to build capacity over time. You've got to build the faith and the track record. You've got to build that whole trajectory so that you can continue to add on to the program as the vision has it. And so
Okay.
what I learned in that process is that you start where you are. Don't
Yes.
worry about what you don't have, just start. And then continue to add to it as your capacity grows. Continue to speak the vision. Continue to enroll more people into it, not only the students, but the parents, the community. And then as you continue to grow and continue to just have that name out there, what ends up happening is that people start talking about your program, they start talking about you, they start talking about the impact.
Mm, mhm.
That impact develops more faith, and the more faith develops more momentum, and that
Wow,
momentum develops more support. And then you
that's great.
continue to grow your program. And before you know it, your program is exactly how you envisioned it.
I love that. And I feel like also too is what you really gave to the kids that were learning was once they learned it, they were able to share it with other people. So it gave them value,
Mm.
and they were actually feeling that energy of what it's like to give back and to serve. And you can have, right, all the things of the world, all the riches, all the fame, all the fortune, right? But a lot of people don't realize once you hit that, really the energy of like what you carry, like giving back, is really the most powerful emotion to feel, and actually seeing a difference in others.
Yeah, and you know what? And I've got this thing. I heard one of my mentors said this a while back, and in relation to giving back.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is a completely different perspective that I love and I embrace. And he says, he says, I don't believe in giving back. He says,
Okay.
because there's no back to give.
Okay.
He
Okay.
says, when we operate in our purpose, we are pouring into this infinite, vast, you know, field that
Yeah.
we expect to see a massive harvest. And what ends up happening is that we are paying it forward. We're seeding everything out there. So that way there's abundance that continues to cycle itself through. And I was like, wow, I love that idea, that concept. So when I work with my members, the students and all of that, I talk to them about the ultimate purpose that
Ooh,
they are here for. And it's
yeah.
like, you may not know it right now, and we're all on this journey to discover that.
Hmm.
And if we just start with something and along the way continue to tweak the process, what will end up happening is that we will find that there are some skill sets that are built and some areas that we have a natural affinity for. We just naturally gravitate towards that. And
Okay.
then the next thing is like, okay, I've discovered that thing. Now let me drill down into it to really cover the bases and just blow it out.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's, I like to look at it from that standpoint.
That is really interesting. I've never heard of that before. You're right. It's like one of these concepts that we all know the phrase, but it's like we just take it for as it is. But that's such like a great shift in the way of actually thinking about that.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So I know that you have a free gift for our audience, which I'm so grateful for, because also you just being here is so generous, giving us your time and really just sharing and giving all this out to us. But also, audience, right? How is exciting is this? We have a free gift that you all can tap into. Why don't you share with us what that is exactly?
All right. Well, you know, I believe in getting things as simple as possible, you know. And so in this gift, it is 4 questions,
I love it.
simple yet profound questions. It's a PDF. And when you dive into these questions, I like to call it your ego,
Okay,
discover
yes.
your ego. Because in your ego, it's not the ego as we know it,
Mhm.
it's the ego, the end, the goal objective.
Oh, that's
What
good.
is your end goal objective? And if you can focus in on that before you do any project, before you go to help anybody, before you go to write your book, before you go to create any content, before you go to build your business, if you know what do I ultimately want to get out of this,
Yeah, that's good.
then you start to build based on what that end goal objective looks like.
I
And
love
there's a series of questions that you can ask yourself that will help you vet that process.
it.
Because what
Mm,
happens is that sometimes what I found over the years, because I work with a lot of nonprofits, work with a lot of businesses, and when it comes to how they craft their media, they have been more reactive than responsive,
okay,
than deliberate. And
right.
that reactive nature is, okay, well, I know I've got to put out 7 pieces of content today. Okay, let me just grab content and just throw it out there. It's like, no, 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 calm down, calm down. First, you have to know what your end goal objective is. What do
Yeah,
you want to get out of your business?
that's
And what
good.
transformation, what do you want to now have your business do for the people?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Once you know that, what are your values?
Mm,
Values, that's what runs your business. Those are your pillars, the pillars that hold your business up. And if you are speaking or operating outside of those values, then what you're going to do is draw in the wrong type of business. You may put content
mm,
out there, but people who come back from that are going to be looking for something completely different because you're not
yeah,
speaking through the lens of your value.
right.
So you got to speak through the lens of your value. So another one of those questions helps to vet that. And then after that, what's next? How do you now create the environment and the capacity and all of that in order to get to where you want to go and to hold on to where you want to go? Sometimes
Yes.
we can get there, but if we don't know how we got there, the mechanism, then it makes it difficult, if not impossible, to hold there and then to
Mm,
grow from there.
yes.
So those questions will help you to do that, and also to help you enroll those around you who are supposed to be a part of your network, so that when ultimately you are ready to now take off, you've got the right support, the right team, everybody's in place, everybody knows the vision, so they can help move you forward as they're moving forward as well.
Wow, that's incredible. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that because you're so right. it's like we can say we want to do this, but if we don't grab a hold of those those 4 questions, we can just continue to run in a mendacious circle, get all stressed out, feel the anxiety, and then not even accomplish our goal. And then we're like, wait, I thought this is like where we're supposed to be. But you're right. Like sometimes we're like, just more content, instead of like really just finding the value in what we're actually trying to do. That is amazing.
And
I
we may
love
be
that.
basing our moves off of somebody else's
Oh,
idea
good.
of what our success is.
Yes. No, that's
And
okay. That's
we
good.
have
You're
we
like,
have to get, yeah, we have to move that out of the way. We have to get down to that core thing, and that's where that value comes in. If I know who I am,
yeah,
what my purpose is, I'm going to ask the right questions, and not based on what mom or dad or cousin so and so or teacher so and so said. It's going to be what is innately mine that God has given me to move forward on, and how do I cultivate that and build that?
I love that. That is powerful. That is powerful. I know my audience is like, okay, because you're right. We overcomplicate things and it's not meant to be that way. And also, too, to piggyback on what you were saying, how, sometimes even like our mentors will like follow a mentor, and then we start kind of morphing into that mentor, or we know people, you know what I mean, that are like, and we're like, wow, you're just like so and so who happens to be like their mentor. We start talking like them, walking, but
Mhm.
that's not our who we are, and so I love that you're like challenging us on that, of like, listen,
Mhm.
there's only one you, and there's like go for it, and don't feel like you have to be like someone else and things like that. No, that's really good. I've actually felt convicted about that this past week too, because sometimes it's easy just to be like, okay, there's this person doing something kind of like what I'm doing, let me just take the fast route. But spiritually, I'm not going to connect to the people who I need and who need me and my audience and my experts if I do anything else but Chef
Exactly.
Gailyn, just like you and what you do. It's like, it's so different. It's so unique. And it's like, I think that's why I just love this interview with you, because it literally is so different. There's nothing carbon copy out there. It's not like I can be like, oh yeah, so have you ever met so and so? Yeah, that's how this interview was. No, heck no.
Right, right,
So what
right.
is something that you want to leave with our audience today that they can just take with them for the rest of time?
I want the audience to know this. And this is just from my own experience. I used to always feel like I was running out of time. And so then that would cause me to be very anxious for things. It's like, okay, quick yes and all that. Anytime that you are feeling anxious to where you feel like you've got to make a snap decision,
Yeah.
you got to slow down. There's a scripture
Ooh,
that I love, and I have stood on
that
this
is good.
scripture since 2015, and it's Philippians 4, 6 through 7. It says, be anxious for nothing, but with
Yes.
everything through prayer and supplications, let your requests be made known unto God. And what that told me is that I had to take that across the board in my life.
Mhm.
Every area that I would feel rushed into, I'm like, hold on, what's the rush? Let
That's good.
me actually think this thing through. Because here's the thing is that if you rush into a yes and it's not a true yes because you don't know all the factors, what ends up happening is that you do not only yourself a disservice, you take away from your purpose, your dream, your vision, and moving towards that. You also do the person that you said yes to a disservice because
Yes.
you're not actually who you're supposed to be showing up, even if it is a yes, but you haven't thought it through. So
Right.
think it through, take your time, be anxious for nothing. And that way your yes can be a true yes, or your no could be a true no because you've thought it
Yes.
through. Yeah.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah.
So to the heart. So to the heart. I cannot thank you enough. Audience, I am grateful you all are here, and we just want you to know that you are not alone in your journey. I will have all of this information underneath, all the contact information. If this resonates with you, do not hesitate to reach out. We will also have these 4 pillars of questions that you can ask yourself. So we'll have that all in a PDF underneath as well. Thank you so much for being here with us.
And I forgot to say this. You can
Yes.
go to bsolutions.live, and if you type in /HHN, okay, and
Okay.
that HHN, and that's for the uh, health. I'm sorry, Chef. give me the health thing. It's the acronym for the healthy
How to heal naturally.
how to heal natural. Thank you.
H.
HHN,
Yeah, we have
right.
to look at, yes, yes,
Right. Yes.
yes,
How to
holiday
heal
edition.
naturally. Okay. So go to, and that's GO, the number 2 dot B solutions dot live /HHN.
I love that.
So you get the special.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. You are definitely a joy and pleasure. You've given us so many nuggets to go on. Oh, I cannot thank you enough. All right, audience, you all enjoy the rest of your day.